day, everyone. Ahla wa sahla, and welcome to Radio Baladi. I'm your guest host, Renée Ahee. It's been a long time since I've hosted a program on US Arab Radio, and now with the magic of video conferencing, you can see us as well as hear us. So thank you for joining our call. If you're a frequent listener to US Arab Radio, you might recall that I hosted some really interesting programs before. One of them was on the importance of voting. The second one was on teaching as a career opportunity for Arab Americans and Arabs worldwide. Another was talking about the importance of college education for Arabs and Arab Americans in our community because of the opportunities that it would give. And then finally, we were talking about the Palestinian and Israeli crisis. So we've had some very interesting topics. I hope you'll find today's very interesting and helpful. Today, I am delighted to present a topic that is certainly timely because it's Women's History Month, and also it anticipates April being Arab American Heritage Month. And the topic, however, is important anytime, all year round, not just in these months, because it is about women, and it will help men too, by the way, because it is about bias and discrimination against women in employment and other areas of life, which, as you know, deprives them of being respected and paid appropriately for their work. And by the way, we're talking about 89 cents to every man's dollar on average in the United States. And it deprives the rest of us of the amazing contributions that women give us for the betterment of society. So I'm excited to be back on Radio Baladi as we will be talking about women, the mothers of invention. So let's start with some facts. In the United States, women account for approximately 51.1% of the population, according to Statista, from 2010 to 2025. So they're anticipating that in America, we will still be a majority. Around the world, according to authors Hannah Ritchie and Max Rosen, in an article published Our World in Statistics, titled Gender Ratios, the worldwide ratio of women to men is 49.6%. While the ratios vary by country and region of the world, most countries have a higher percentage of women than men. This is important when we consider how women's talents and skills impact the world condition for the better when we're devoid of bias, discrimination, and violence that disproportionately affect women. So today, I have the honor of introducing you to three amazing Arab American women who will share their journeys into and through male-dominated professions, what they have experienced, what they have accomplished, and what kind of advice they have for Arab and Arab American women to also overcome challenges that they face. So I'd like to welcome first Abeer Khatib. Last December, Abeer retired from a 23-year career in a really male-dominated field of airport consulting. Now, before meeting Abeer, I had no idea that that career ever existed, and let alone a powerful woman being in that role. She holds a bachelor's degree in architectural engineering from the University of Jordan and a master's degree in urban and regional planning from our wonderful University of Michigan. Originally from Palestine, Abeer came to the US with her husband and her 10-week-old baby to pursue her master's degree, while her husband pursued a PhD in mechanical engineering. Abeer's most recent role for her company was as the National Business Development Leader for the aviation practice. And while she was doing that, that practice grew from a small regional center in New York to a national power in the world of aviation consulting. As if that wasn't success enough, she is running her own business with her husband, an engineering and consulting firm and an equipment company. So welcome to Radio Baladi, Abeer, and thank you for being with us. I'm very excited that you could join us today. I want to ask you to tell us a little bit about, I told them a little bit about your background, but I'd like you to tell us about your journey, about you, your professional journey, and your personal journey. There may be a misconception around the world, and perhaps in the United States too, that education for women in Palestine was not accessible when you were younger. Yet you pursued a degree in architectural engineering in Jordan and went on for a master's degree in urban and regional planning. So please tell us a little bit about your story.
First, I want to thank you, Renee. You're an amazing friend and also professional woman. So I feel very humbled that you are actually asking me for these questions. I did grow up in Nablus, in the West Bank or in Palestine. And when I was 17 years old, I moved to Jordan to pursue my architectural degree. I have to say that I'm not that unique in that sense. We have many women some of my friends have also gone into that direction, engineering. And actually we had 2 universities in Palestine that offer engineering degrees. But I chose to leave because of the situation. And I was lucky that my father did support me. I was very tired of the conflict in Palestine. And one of the things that I remember when going to Jordan, the first thing I was amazed at that I can walk at night and don't worry about soldiers stopping me or harassing me or detaining me for some reason. So that was like an amazing thing. Walk at night and don't be afraid of anything. But anyway, going back to our situation, my father was very up and my mother were very forward thinking. And like every woman in the Middle East, my dad was asked for my hand when I was even before getting into degree, a degree, like when I was in high school. And my dad always said, I'm not gonna leave money for you as a lady, as a woman, but I'm gonna leave one thing, which is your education to protect you from the future. So with that, I went to Jordan and finished my degree and got married and came to United States to do my master's degree. So it's not really anything amazing. It's just a usual, going to school. And
I think some of us would think it's pretty amazing having to deal with being stopped by soldiers in the night, in the day, anytime they want. It's yeah. So to me, it is absolutely a huge challenge for men and women in Palestine. When you came here to pursue your degree, did you encounter any kind of discrimination that and in your job, that you felt you had needed to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Well, as somebody coming from that situation, I always felt that I'm grateful for the opportunity that this country offered me. So looking back into what I faced, there were some challenges, especially when I joined. My first job was in Central New York. Central New York is a small, Syracuse is a small town mentality. Really not much diversity. There is some diversity, but not much. It's totally different than when you talk about Southeast Michigan, or you talk about California, or places where there is diversity. So I did face some of those, but I always was feeling that I'm lucky to make it and be here. I was in a company that has everybody on the board was male. And they were white male. I was one of 2 out of, at that time, the company was about 200 people. I was one of 2 people who were not white American, and very few even women, women of all kinds of race, and So it was, I had somebody suggested that he wants to convert me because I'm too good to be a Muslim. Somebody did say at one of the strategic meeting that when I brought the idea of bringing more diversity to the company in the early days, they said, somebody said, oh, so we need to bring more of them to do more work. But I have to say, this is like 23 years ago. We have, the company now is moving in the right direction, and they are hiring of all kinds of walks of lives. So it's different. It is and also we expanded outside centrally New York to here and California and Phoenix, Arizona. So we have offices all across the nation. And by the nature of being in that, environment, you hire people from all walks of life. So it's different. But when I first started, I had some of that. I never thought of it as bad because, they are accepting me. I'm coming out from a different culture. I give them always the benefit of the doubt.
Mom, do you think that their approach changed because you were there and your influence to helping them be more open to diversity?
I can't take the credit for all of that, but I definitely have, when I got into being a department manager, I brought more diversity. I hired people from Jordan, I hired people from India, and they got to see that everybody is contributing and successful. So we did turn some heads, but also the whole environment now is changing toward minority. I mean, we didn't have any Black person at that time, but now we have a good number of Black people. I keep saying we because I've been there for 23 years and I still feel I belong there. But it's really moved in the right direction. The whole environment, I think, is moving in the right direction.
Do you see that happening in other companies around the country as well, that there is a greater acceptance of people of color or ethnicity? Well, let's talk about your profession. In engineering and in urban planning and such?
I think there is. And the reason why that a company like us mainly work with governmental agencies. We work with airports. Airports are run by government agencies. Okay. And in general, the government agencies are more aggressive toward diversity. So they get to realize that you can't keep walking into these interviews to win a job with white male while your audience who's going to select you are coming from different walks of life. So we got, of course, I am a big believer in that, but they got to believe for the business sense that you have to reflect your client identity. And if you keep walking with Black suits on white male, while your selection committee is a Black woman, or like in many cases here in Detroit Metro, we have many Arab engineers that serve there. So they realized that you have, in a sense, that was to my advantage because I reflected some diversity, and growing the business outside of centrally New York, I brought something to the table in addition to my knowledge, but I brought this understanding of different culture and ability to mingle and talk the talk with different people from different cultures.
Thank you, Hend. That was a very good question. That was going to be mine, but I had a feeling that Mama would have that influence. Anyway, everybody, hold on for a little bit. We're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to introduce you to a couple other amazing young women.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19, and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937, 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Hello, everybody. We're back. Thank you for staying with us on Radio Baladi. I want to thank Abeer Khatib for her comments of earlier. I hope you were here to listen to it. In a few minutes, we'll get to talk with Abeer and get her suggestions and advice for other Arab and Arab American women as they pursue their careers, their chosen lifestyles, and give them some advice as to how to overcome those challenges. But I'd like now to introduce you to 2 amazing young Arab American women who are making their mark on the world of business and the professions, and who are making their mom exceedingly proud. Hend Khatib and Leen Khatib. In the US, there is a cliche that says the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. Well, Hend and Leen, with their professional and personal successes, despite their own challenges, bear out that statement perfectly. Hend Khatib is a mother of 2 young children, a wife, and a finance whiz. She holds both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in business administration from the very prestigious Ross School of Business at University of Michigan. She's currently the manager of corporate compensation at Ally Bank, one of our largest banks in the country here in the United States, in the city of Detroit, where she leads the analysis of market data to assess the appropriateness of compensation for the employees of Ally here in this region. Hend has held other positions with Ally, as well as with Citigroup in New York City. And I want to welcome you, Hend, to Radio Baladi, and thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know the children are being well taken care of, so it's especially, you feel a little bit more relaxed, I know. So thank you for being here. You have referred to your parents as the power couple. And based on what I know about you and what I've read, we can apply that word power to you as well. So I'm delighted. Please tell our audience about your journey and what was made possible by your mom. I think you've already suggested that in your question to your mom. And maybe you can talk about your experience through high school and university, and then when you got to the professional world. And how did you handle any challenges?
Sure. Thank you again, Renee, for having us and inviting us to speak with you. This is a great honor. So I'm very happy to be here. So in terms of my professional journey, I think high school, university, I was pretty lucky. I felt, that I was able to fit in. I had great experiences. So I think really where I started to feel, challenges was when I first entered the workforce. So I picked, finance, which, as you mentioned earlier, is more of a male dominated field. It's definitely changing now, but especially when I first entered, I was on a team of, 9 to 10 individuals, and I was the only female on that team. Frequently the only female in the room and in meetings. So that, obviously presented many challenges. Some of, the very straightforward ones was just feeling a little bit excluded. And I don't think it was my teammates' intent to make me feel excluded. I think it just happened by, the nature of things they talked about, activities that they did together, for example, my teammates, they would have poker nights and I wasn't invited. Even if I was, I don't think I would have felt comfortable attending and being the only female there. So again, I don't think it was their intent to exclude me, but just by the nature of how things worked out, I was excluded. And so it was my challenge to figure out how to build working relationships with my coworkers and feel more connected to them. Because I do think it's important, obviously the way I see it is there's two parts to how you do your job. One is the work output, right? You work hard. Is your work quality strong? Are you doing a good job in that sense? And then the other piece that I think contributes to your success in the corporate world is how are the working relationships that you're building? Are you connecting with people? Do you have mentors? Do you have a strong brand in the company? And so that's more on the, softer skill side. And you have achieved that by connecting with your coworkers. So because it was harder for me to connect with my team, I had to be creative and figure out ways to connect with my, all male teammates. So I couldn't engage with discussions about football or play fantasy football or whatever they were doing, but I would find ways to connect with them one-on-one. That seemed to work best with me. So talk to one of my teammates and, hey, do you want to grab a cup of coffee? Let's talk about, this project or deliverable that we're working on, or let's talk about a shared interest. And I found that for me, it worked really well to connect one-on-one with individuals and kind of break that barrier. Another thing that I wanted to mention as well, so another challenge kind of related to being the only female on the team was some of the feedback that I would get. So I was doing a really good job on the team and I always asked my manager for feedback and he said, you're doing great, your work quality is awesome, but I have one piece of feedback. Hend, you need to be more aggressive. You work with a bunch of men. And at the time I said, okay, but I'll take that feedback and think about it. And then later when I had time to reflect on it, and actually I remember talking to my mom about it and we both thought, well, that's kind of silly. So if I worked with a bunch of women, I wouldn't have to change anything, but because I work with all men, I need to change who I am. It's not in my nature to be aggressive. I'm more of a soft-spoken person. So
high powered nevertheless. Yeah.
Thank you. But how I approach things, right? I wouldn't say that I'm aggressive or that I feel comfortable being aggressive. So I guess my other piece of advice, if you're trying to build, as you're working to build your career, is to be authentic to your true self. And obviously it's great to ask for feedback, but it's your decision whether or not you're going to act on that feedback. I think it's really important to be genuine and true to your authentic self.
You have begged two questions for me. One of them is, did you ever give that feedback to your boss and ask him to, or her, why do I have to change? If I was working with a bunch of women, we kind of understand each other. What made you say that to me? That's number one. And secondly, did you ever experience anything from an ethnic bias point of view? I mean, obviously you speak English perfectly, you don't have an accent, so on and so forth. But I was just curious as to whether or not, because many Arab American women face that by virtue of their nationality or the fact that they speak with an accent.
So the first question, I was 23 at the time, and no, I didn't go. He was a senior director, and I didn't go back. I actually still works there, so maybe I should go back and talk to him about it now. I did not. Honestly, I didn't go back and say anything to him. In terms of bias, from an ethnic perspective, I never felt it, for the reasons that you've mentioned. So I never really, felt that. I was always also, not only frequently the only female in the room, but frequently the only Arab American in the room too. But I don't think that really got in the way of me achieving what I wanted.
Great. I mean, these are, I think they're useful on a couple levels to hear from you as a young Arab American woman. And you're juggling your young family as your mom was juggling her young family, trying to get acclimated to a new culture. So there are likenesses and there are differences in that experience. Can you talk a tad bit about that?
About
Yes, about being a young mom
Oh,
and,
sure.
you know, and the issues that you don't have to face that mom had to face perhaps.
Sure.
And you were the little one that she brought over. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, everybody talks about the village, right? When you're a mom and you need that village, whether you're a working mom or not. And so I think that my mom didn't have that village, and it was her and my dad, and that was it. Their family was overseas. My mom's whole family was abroad. My dad's family, some of them were in the States, but they weren't in the same state as my parents lived in. So they didn't have that village. So that's what, and I'm very lucky I have that village. My family's here, my sister's here, my parents are here, my in-laws live very close as well, and everybody's super supportive. So I feel very grateful to have that. And sometimes I sit back and think, how did my mom do this? She didn't have that. She was new to the country. She was learning a new culture, learning a new language. She didn't have the modern technology, that we have now, like Zoom and FaceTime, and that make it so easy to connect. I mean, she told me, I think it was very expensive at that time to just call her mom. And I think of how many times a day I call my mom for advice. So she serves as my sister and mom are laughing because I probably called too much, but my mom served as a major inspiration for me. And whenever I feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, I remember, what she did and how strong she was.
well, I would like to talk to the other young lady, your wonderful sister, whose own path has been lined with success. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Leen Khatib. Leen earned her bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering and her doctor of dental sciences from the University of Michigan. And she went on to get a master of science in dentistry and orthodontic residency. I think that's what it's called, from Indiana University. So again, talk about success. This young woman has overcome several hurdles, and she is the owner and partner of SBK Orthodontics, which has 5 locations in southeastern Michigan and employs 50 people. And as if that's not enough, she is currently the president-elect for the Washtenaw County District Dental Society. Leen, thank you for joining us. Thanks for taking your time, and congratulations on becoming an owner and partner. And when we are going to talk today about strong trees and apples, we're talking about you 3 amazing women. So thank you, welcome. Please tell us about your experience as an Arab American woman, girl and young woman growing up, and how has your experience differed from your mom's and your sisters? Because you came up a little bit after Hend. Was the situation a little bit different? Was it the same? You've also done some critical humanitarian work in Meru, Kenya, and in Jordan, helping the Syrian refugees, and here in Michigan, serving the underserved. And how have you been received as a woman?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just like my sister, my mom said, thank you so much for having us, Renee. We feel very honored to be here. So I think my experience, is quite similar to my sister's, in that we were both kind of I was born and raised in the United States. We did move quite a bit growing up. So I attended a different elementary school than my middle school, than my high school. So I had to learn to adapt to, being in a new place and trying to make new friends. And one of my biggest challenges would be looking back at when we moved from upstate New York to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was right after 9/11, and I'm coming to this very non-diverse, small, rural town. And I felt like I had to explain who I was. So I was probably one of the first Arab Americans that a lot of my peers maybe never interacted with Arab Americans. And it was right after the media and the news, talking about Arabs and being terrorists. So I struggled initially with, being proud of who I am and showing everyone that I'm not a terrorist. I'm just like you. And at first it was very difficult, but what I realized is that, just through my normal day-to-day interactions and being involved with sports and being on different, I was in Model UN and I played basketball, and that they saw who I was on a personal level. So then they were like, oh, you're just like us. So I think that is something I kind of carried on throughout the rest of my life, is that, you know, just forming these personal connections with people allows them to see that we're just like everyone else. And then it kind of helps them understand that the misconceptions that the media sometimes show is not really what it is. So I think that was a big thing that helped me growing up. And that kind of has carried over to my career as well, because a couple of our offices are in smaller towns, and I am the only female dentist in my practice. I have two other partners, both of them are white males. So I think coming on early on as a partner and as a dentist there kind of was a struggle at first, because a lot of people were like, who's this young doctor? First of all, I get a lot of times I would get, oh, you're too young to be a doctor and you're a female. So I just realized with time from my experience as being younger was, you know, just show them who you are, be personable. And with time, they come around and they're like, oh yeah, you are just like anyone else. So that was a lot of my experience.
Well, I'd like to say you're not like anybody else. We'll talk more about that when we come back. So stay with us, everybody. We're going to take a short commercial break.
When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Albanjit Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us here on Radio Baladi. We're talking to 3 amazing Arab American women, Abeer Khatib, Hend Khatib, and now Leen Khatib. And I wanted to tell you, Leen, that after you mentioned 9/11, one of the important things that I was able to do with the University of Michigan's Institute of Social Research is a Detroit Arab American study, which talked about people's reactions after 9/11. So you're coming up and you're going to, a rural community. I can understand what happened. It was felt here that we had taken strides backward as a result of that. So I think that you're recognizing that and telling us about that is also very important. And I also think being yourself, as your sister talked about, was very, very important. And I really appreciate you bringing that up, because people kind of forget that we're still living after 9/11. And even though 21 years later, we think we've made strides. Well, it's, all lives matter, and women's lives matter, and Black lives matter, and Arab lives matter. And I think one of the lessons that we can give people as we go through this rest of this program are some of the ways that we might be able to do that. And I want to tell our audience, by the way, that Leen and Hend have a brother who is also highly educated. And I call the Khatibs the Power family. This young man has 2 bachelor's degrees in engineering. So mom is proud of all 3 of her children. And I am very proud that I have you here to talk about these kinds of things. I also wanted to share a little bit about my own experience as an Arab American woman, because I think that I was invited by the International Engineering and Operations Management Society to speak about diversity and inclusion. And it was very, very interesting to see how diversity and inclusion is discussed around the world. In my own situation, I am American born of Lebanese descent. My maternal and paternal grandparents were from Lebanon, from the same village in Lebanon, actually. But mom was born in Argentina. And she had a similar immigrant experience, but coming to the United States and speaking nothing but Arabic and Spanish. So they spoke 3 languages in our home: English, Arabic, and Spanish. Dad was born in Pennsylvania, right? But they would cuss in Arabic. So I didn't actually learn how to speak Arabic very well. I'm the eldest of 3 children and the first to go to college. And that it was a huge source of pride. And so we are still realizing in the Arab American community, first generations college, recipients. So I didn't feel very different as a child until I went to school where the other girls were, and you were talking, Leen, about differences. They were thin, they had straight hair, they didn't have one eyebrow. So it was, it's funny now that we talk about it, but you develop a sense of humor and a bit of self-denigration from that kind of treatment, so that you don't have to suffer you don't have to be the brunt of discrimination or teasing or anything like that. And I went to Catholic schools from elementary all the way through college. It was from high school and college that I came into my own and into the profession of communications. And that was because when you attend an all-girls high school and an all-women's college, the nuns tell you that you have an obligation to use the brain that God gave you as a woman. And especially as we talked earlier, that women are the majority of the world's population, then you realize that certainly we have a lot to contribute, and we are obligated to also contribute. So I didn't realize gender bias until I got my first professional job. Hend, I want to go back to your first professional job, except this was even a little more embarrassing. I was wearing an outfit that was very popular in the day, and in front of other people, my boss said in passing, "Renee, if you wear that top every day, I'll give you a raise."
Oh.
Now, I'm a lot older than mom, so this goes back even further, but I was embarrassed, I was mortified, and I was angry at the fact that you would even, I came with a college degree. I'm in your public relations department, and I'm doing important projects like employee communications, like writing press releases, representing the bank that I was at the time. And I actually couldn't believe it. And my being fair-skinned and speaking without a foreign accent really has spared me the kind of discrimination and that ethnic looking and speaking people of color and different ethnicities experience, or women who wear the hijab, for example.
Yeah.
You know, they suffer that every day. My own experience with bias has been primarily not paid at the same level as a man and hitting a glass ceiling in corporate America. But you know, my clients have been organizations that have dealt with diversity, like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Arab American Chamber of Commerce, Access, and organizations of the Native American community and the Asian community. So we also have started an organization some years ago now. Two of my dear friends, Jumana Jude and Rose Khalifa, we realized that Arab American women are at a disadvantage corporately. They have less access to capital to build a business or to grow a business, and they experience less equitable treatment in corporate America. So we created the Arab American Women's Business Council to try to mitigate against that, to teach women how to certify their businesses as a WBE. So for our audience, what WBE stands for is Women Business Enterprise. That is a certification that it's a rigorous certification, but it also tells corporate America that you are woman-owned and operated. And that is an important designation if you're going after corporate contracts or government contracts.
You're bringing very good point, Renée, is supporting each other. That's a good example of supporting each other. And I think if every one of us does that on their position, regardless of what the position is, take under her or his arm, even as a man, somebody, and mentor them to, you know, to help them. I call that, you know, ally, you know, whatever organization you are at, you need to find somebody who believes in you and help you mangle through the politics of an organization and, you know, get you to where you want to be. And I mean it in a good way. I mean it like, you know, sometimes we women don't sell ourselves, don't say, you know, you have to be advocating for yourself at the organization. And if you can't do it, you maybe can do it with certain people and they will advocate for you, because we usually tend to undermine what our capabilities, and men usually are the other way. Margaret Thatcher said something about, if you want to say something, ask a man, and if you want to do something, ask a woman. Yes. And I believe it at 100%.
Well, that's right. And the guys believe it too. They know it. They know it. And I think that we are still in a situation where the men dominate corporate positions. They dominate the boards of directors of organizations. And we will make an impact, a greater impact, if we are able, as you say, to gain mentors, whether female or male, help one another get through some of the challenges that we have faced. And I was excited to tell you about a young woman who is an accountant by trade. I mentored her. Actually, she's a CPA, a certified public accountant. And she was telling me she didn't want to know professionally, because I'm you know, public relations and marketing, and she's accounting, finance kind of stuff. And I certainly couldn't help her in her career. And she had already made it, by the way. Some very, very, very high performing and big companies in America. But she was experiencing pressure from her parents to do her duty as a daughter, as a mother, and at the same time supporting her career, but the pressure was significant. And I think that I think you're saying something very important to Abeer and Hend, because you were a young woman, you may not have said anything to your supervisor about, you know, why, but this is the other thing. We don't use our voice. The advice I gave her is, let's talk to mom. That it's hurting you, or how can we get through this, mom, because I feel pressure. And she's afraid to talk to her mom, right? And so what we want to say to everyone on in the program is that we women have been enculturated, let's say. We have either religious or cultural or even just gender bias as we're being raised, not necessarily overtly, but societally. And so we'll get back to that in just a couple minutes, but I felt for her because it really wasn't her ability to be a mom, a daughter, and a CPA. It was more about the pressure that she was experiencing because of religion and culture. And so I think that I'd like to take a little bit of a break right now, because I'd like to next talk about your advice. And you've already started, Abeer, by talking about mentoring and organizations like the AAWBC and other organizations. And I think, Leen, you are also part of professional organizations, and your mom is a part of the Arab American Architects and Engineers, I think, right? AAAE. Yeah. And so I think that, those kinds of things can help us and get us moving forward in our professions as well. So if you could, everybody hang on for a couple minutes, because we have some wonderful sponsors who are helping us get this message out to you. So we hope that you'll support them, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
What's my ETA?
Your estimated time of arrival is 9:17.
I'm late. I'll have to punch it.
Speeding will save you just 1 minute and 36 seconds. It will also increase your risk of a crash, as well as the odds that you will be stopped and issued an expensive speeding ticket.
Yeah, but...
In 1 year, there were 22,000 speeding-related crashes in Michigan, resulting in 200 deaths.
If I had someone in the car with me, I'd drive slower. But it's just me.
This is not a logical response. Though you have no passenger, surrounding cars contain 27 others, including 5 children and 1 Labrador Retriever.
How do you know all this stuff?
I know everything, Kevin.
Your risk of a crash increases with every mile you drive over the speed limit. So slow down. Speed enforcement is happening now. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Welcome back to Radio Baladi, where our guests are Abeer, Hend, and Renée Khatib. And ladies, I'd like us to focus our conversation now on what women, whether they are first generation and maybe struggling with language barriers or the English language, or other Arab and Arab American women who face cultural and religious barriers, what they can do to overcome them. I'd like to tell you all about a story that the very well-regarded Dr. Ahee Kulwicki told me once. This was years ago, and I never understood this, by the way. She said, Renee, you could be the most educated person in the world, and if you speak with an accent, people will think you're stupid. Now, being the daughter of an immigrant and an immigrant grandparents, I always thought that if you could speak another language, you were pretty darn cultured.
Exactly.
And you had other experiences that we, as in this case, Americans, don't have. But that's not what Dr. Ahee had experienced either. And she has achieved, at that time, she was the chief medical officer for the city of Detroit. So in this anti-immigrant environment that we are in, is Dr. Aheed's views still true? And I'd like to hear your advice.
Well, I think Hend touched on a very good point, which is authenticity. You are who you are, and you cannot change who you are. I have an accent. I've been here for 35 years. I can change that. and I do have some misspellings or grammar issues just because. You can change that. And one of the advice that I give to the people that I mentor in my company, I always bring this story to them. When I took my position as a leader for the business development for the aviation team, I took the position from somebody who became the CEO for the company. So I was like, I had a very big shoe to fill. And at the beginning, I started thinking, wow, how am I going to do that? And after thinking about it, I'm not going to be Ron. Ron is Ron. I don't play golf, but I have my own. And plus, you know, he's a very smart guy. He's, you know, I have to give it to him as he's very achieving guy. And I felt like, you know, how am I going to fill the shoes? And I got to the thing that got me through this is telling everybody, I'm not going to be Ron. I'm not going to do what Ron does. This is where my strengths are, and this is how I'm going to approach this position. And I prove it to be and focus on my strengths. My strengths, I can walk to any airport manager and talk with him without worrying about my accent, or, you know, I have different skill set. I understand the culture. I understand the people at the airport who come from a different culture. So I focused my strength, and also I am very systematic in a way where I put, you know, standards and way of doing things. So I focused on the things that I'm good at. I'm not going to be Ron, and I don't want to be Ron, like Hend said. And I did the same with the lady who took over my position after I retired. So I stayed there for 6 months to train her, and I was training her even before. But I told her, this is what you have. You have strengths that I don't have, and focus on that. You don't have to think like you do things the way I did it, because that's my comfort zone. So authenticity is one of the things. And the other thing about the woman in general, don't get into the victim mentality. Oh, we are this, we are this. Okay, it's on me to change people by, I think Leen had said something to that meaning. It's on me to change and turn heads by showing by example how I'm, you know, how I'm carrying myself. And sometimes, and I feel that I had evolved at some point when I was in that very male domain culture. I had to work through the ideas before a meeting with some people who I trust. And I know that, you know, because I know if I walk into that meeting with 10 men, the minute I will say my opinion, they will, and they go. Right. But if I sell my ideas before with people one-on-one, like what Hend said, I know that I will have a better opportunity of success because I did talk to those people. And that happened. And then I became very trusted. And before I left, everybody said, like, you speak your mind, you don't care. You actually encourage us to speak our minds, because we said, well, if Abeer talking with an accent and she speaks her mind and she doesn't care, they started to actually, I was surprised, like everybody at my retirement thing, and my girls were there for a retirement party. They said, oh, she speaks her mind, she's fearless. And I think I didn't get there from, you know, you have to work through things and understand the environment, and when act to gain trust. And when you gain trust, the sky is the limit.
I would like to ask Hend and Leen about the importance of joining organizations that may support you as well. Leen, we could start with you, because you have chosen, you're part of the Washtenaw, you're president-elect of the Washtenaw District Dental Association, and you're part of NAMA. And you know, you probably all know my former role with NAMA. I was the CEO for 5 years of that wonderful organization that gives opportunity to Arab American physicians, male and female, and the next gen, which is something that Dr. Ruba Ali Fahmy has moved, you know, ahead, really makes a difference, because there is camaraderie. So talk a little bit about that, and Hend, you're welcome to come into that conversation too. about, is this good advice for women who are trying to move forward in careers that may not necessarily be female dominated?
Absolutely. So actually, this past year, have formed a Women's Smile Society study club. So it's for dentists, female dentists in the area, Southeast Michigan, where we practice, to kind of get together once a month to talk about not just clinical aspects, but the business aspect. Because I think as becoming a partner with my two partners are both white males, I realized that my struggles as a business owner is different than their struggle as a business owner. So in our field, with time, it's changed. It used to be predominantly male. Now we're, I think, close to 50-50 female male, but our staff is predominantly women.
Correct.
And so how our staff view my partners, the male partners versus me, was very different coming in. I had to kind of gain their respect, where they just kind of handed it to them, my male partners. So I thought, the best way, I think, really is I formed this Women's Smile Society group. It was a way where we could kind of talk about how to deal with those interactions. And, I don't have a family yet, but a lot of women do. And how do you balance the work family lifestyle, right? You have kids at home, but you're a business owner. So you have to give 110% to your business. You have to give 110% to your kids. And how do you do that? So I think really being involved in these organizations, it's really nice. You have a backboard to kind of just throw off your ideas. And I have maybe like 5 women that practice in my area that I can just text any day and say, oh my God, I'm dealing with this stress at work. How would you deal with this? And it's really nice to have that kind of support. So I think for anyone in business or women in general, it's really important to have that support group. And there's a lot out there. So there's a lot of people a lot of different organizations that you can find and you can be a part of. And if you can't find one that fits your needs, I started one, and we have 20 people in it right now, and we just started in January. So,
and I think that it is even it's even an amazing thing during COVID.
Yes,
and it's maybe even more needed. Hend, I'd like to hear from you, and then I need to close this wonderful conversation. And I'm sorry we have to close, but please, do you have some parting thoughts, if you will?
Sure. I mean, what my mom and Leen said, I totally agree with. One different thing I might add is just also branch out to organizations. I think when I first started my career, I wanted to be with women organizations, Arab American organizations, but I think it's also important to get involved in organizations that may be outside of your affinity group. You can always learn something new. And I think it's also good for us to put ourselves out there in different areas of the community and not just stay in the Arab American community.
Very valuable advice. Ladies and gentlemen, discrimination in any form is wrong. Our treatment of women who are our mothers, nurturers, sisters, daughters, brilliant minds, and world leaders must be treated equitably, equally for our world to flourish and to survive. Just last week, I saw a quote from American actress Meryl Streep. So as we wrap up today's program, I'd like to leave it with you to ponder and to take right action. She said, I do honestly think that if women were running the world, there would be more investment in peace. Because basically, as women, we do not want to see our children killed. Maybe I am completely idealistic, but until we see women in equal positions of power in the world, I just think that we are doomed. Thanks to our guests, Abeer Khatib, Hend Khatib, and Leen Khatib. Thanks to all of you for joining us on Radio Baladi. Stay safe, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.